Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Curry, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me. I need to announce that Sam Levy and Sarah Campbell, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you know them. We love them from all the episodes that they've been on. They are coming aboard Scream with Ryan C. Showers to help me be administrators for my Patreon group and community. So thank you to Sam and Sarah. So this week's episode is a little bit different than what we've been doing recently. So we have three different parts. We have up first, the Taylor Swift song of the day is Karma, one of my favorite songs. And we talk a lot about the philosophy of karma, which is interesting. Then we go on to a discussion about Jada Pinkett Smith with my friend Tamika and the Scream 2 opening and Maureen Evans. And then following up that is Amar Karim and I sit down and review thoroughly Heart Eyes, the movie Heart Eyes. And yes, there are spoilers here. So now before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Amar Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Justin Weir, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode, this week's jam-packed, fun episode. And this episode has, it's kind of a hodgepodge of different things. And so it's hard to kind of nail down a Taylor Swift song. And I wanted to do this song for a long time because this is something that I think about every single day. It's something that relates to my life. It probably should relate to your life. I don't know if you're like me and like Taylor, because Taylor has literally said in a previous song, all I think about is karma, circa, look what you made me do, circa 2017, circa Reputation. So everybody, please welcome my co-host for the Taylor Swift segment of the week, Ashley. Hey, Ash.
Hello, Ryan. I am so excited to talk about this song.
So Ash, I already kind of spoiled it, but I Easter egged it. Okay. But what is the Taylor Swift song of the day?
The Taylor Swift song of the day is Karma. This is track 11 off of Midnights, which came out in 2022. This was written and produced by Taylor Swift, Jack Antonoff, Jahan Sweet, Keanu Beats, and Soundwave. I apologize if I pronounced any of those names wrong.
Actually, I think you mispronounced Taylor Swift, just for the record.
Okay, shit. She's gonna be so upset. There's also a version that features Ice Spice in this song. This song was the closing song of the Eras tour. If you didn't know, this song is about karma. And I did a little sleuthing about karma, and I found the most consistent definition was karma in Hinduism and Buddhism is the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence viewed as being their fate in future existences. So I think we all have like a different interpretation of karma as it comes. The word karma alone can strike fear and happiness into Swifties. There is lore that Taylor Swift was going to release a secret album called Karma, and then it never came out, and then we got Reputation. So when she was like, there's a song called Karma, literally, you guys, it was equivalent to when people found out that Kevin Williamson was going to be on Scream 7. Like, the internet was ablaze. My For You page and everywhere was just crazy. And then, obviously, we were like, what is this going to sound like? And I will say, I was not disappointed. I love this song. If you haven't heard it, she has a lot of different metaphors and ways to describe how she feels like she gets karma in her life. Like, one of my favorite lines is the cat purring in my lap because it loves me? Because I will tell you, you have to show affection from the majority of cats to feel confident to come and sit in your lap. Like, dogs, I love dogs, don't get me wrong. But most of them, you meet them and they're so excited to meet you, right? Man's best friend, woman's best friend. They all just like want to be your best friend. Cats, a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more like, hey, who are you? Are you going to pick me up? Are you going to feed me? Are you going to kick me? What are you going to do here? And then if you're nice to them, they come and they sit on your lap and they purr. Get a cat, because when it sits and purrs on you, it's literally like melting into oblivion and you just feel so good. And I love all of her different definitions of what karma means to her. And the opening line is, you're talking shit for the hell of it. And I'm just like, I love it. Sorry, I'm going to stop talking.
No, I love it. So, I mean, Karma is a song that I deeply love. Midnights is like her return to pop album, right? And this song, I think, is the type of song that you can kind of jam to, and like that's very entertaining. But I also just love what she's trying to accomplish with this song in terms of talking about karma and the universe. And like, Taylor Swift's philosophy of karma and the idea that what goes around comes around, and like, whatever you put out into the world, you'll get back. It has been something that has been very relaxing for me, not to use her specific word, but it's very soothing for me. It's part of like how I kind of operate throughout my day in terms of like, sometimes I feel very frustrated and very aggrieved by things that have happened to me, things that I think people have done to me or done to other people that I find so much injustice in, and there's nothing you can really do about it, because the Taylor Swift's philosophy of karma has given me a lot of peace in thinking, there's nothing I can do about this. If I try to seek revenge, then I'm only making the problem worse. There's only going to be bad things that will come to me, and seeking revenge isn't the right thing to do. I think what she's trying to say here is, let the universe take care of it and everything will work out. And when you do that, when you let go of it, you have peace. I have found a lot of peace in just focusing on myself and putting good energy out into the world, putting good content out, focusing on the podcast and making it better, and letting the chips fall where they all. People who have acted in bad faith I believe will have karma. I think no matter, and people who act in good faith will also, they will get their good karma. I think that there's something so peaceful thinking about, like, if you're minding your own business and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you have your heart in the right place, things will work out. So Ash, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I feel like sometimes karma can be hard to see. Like, for an example, if there was like if somebody has power over other people and maybe they're abusing their power in some way and it looks like they have everything handed to them. I'm not saying that they're going to necessarily always lose that power in a way or they're going to do this, but I feel like when they go home at night, they don't have the same, like, they don't have a Ryan. They don't have a cat purring in their lap because animals fear them. They don't want to be around them. They instill fear in everybody around them. So they might think that they have a good life, but they don't. Like, they have an embarrassing, what other people would look at and be like, wow, how embarrassing. Like, you instill fear in people and the people that work for you are scared of you and don't give a crap about you, and anything could happen. And the only people that would care would be the people who are delusional enough to think that you're interesting. And like, you're not. Like, that's like, I feel like karma can be different things. Like, it can look like somebody has it all, but they really don't. And, but I also think that sometimes, like, if you are really shitty, like, stuff comes back around in some ways. And it doesn't have to be a horrible thing, but I don't know, maybe your burger's cold, or after you, like, or like, I don't know, like, if you're rude to the server at a restaurant, maybe you trip and fall outside of it later or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there's like somehow the universe finds a way to get you back a little bit. And I love how she describes it.
And like, so there are two things like I want to address here before we go on to the lyrics. I have a very fun game for us to play with this. So literally, if you look at physics, right? If you put something out, something comes back. That's how physics works. So I mean, like, there's that aspect of karma, but like also the idea of, like, I truly believe that, and again, you have to kind of give yourself over to the universe in some respect. You have to, because like the universe has its own timeline for things, and like, good karma will come and bad karma will come, but not on your timeline, on the universe's timeline. And I think Taylor is expressing that in the music video. The music video emphasizes nature. It's about, there's different depictions of her out in the world, out in nature. And I think what she's expressing is what I just did about, like, karma being something that's natural. It's something that the universe has a greater pull over than any of us do. And I think that, like, she says it in the song that I keep my side of the street clean. If you keep your side of the street clean, if you focus on yourself, the universe will give that back to you.
The image that I always see when I think about karma is, I don't know, like, I probably saw something like this on Funniest Home Videos or probably on TikTok, but it's a lot of times it's like an older sibling or an older kid and they're pushing a younger kid on a swing, and like they're pushing too hard, right? And then they like do one of those things where they like kind of like whip their little sibling and they go flying, and then they turn around to like be like ha ha ha, and then the swing comes back and like just takes them out. And it's just like, there's some physics for you. And that's, to me, like, that's what karma is. It's just like, you're being a bully, and it's going to come back at you a little bit harder than it did when you tried to bully.
Taylor, as Ashley alluded to, Taylor talks about karma and she compares it to different things, like many different things. So I just want to run through literally every single one. And I've actually thought, like, I should create my own version of this for like Scream 7. Like, karma is the ghost on the screen coming straight home to me. I don't know, but that's, yeah. So anyways, okay, so here we go. Karma is my boyfriend. Karma is a god. Karma is the breeze in my hair on the weekend. Karma's a relaxing thought. Aren't you envious for you that it's not? We like honey. Karma is a cat purring in my lap because it loves me. Flexing like a goddamn acrobat. Me and Karma vibe like that. Karma is the thunder rattling your ground. Karma is on your scent like a bounty hunter. Karma's gonna track you down step by step from town to town. Sweet like justice. Karma is a queen. Karma takes all my friends to the summit. Karma is the guy on the screen coming straight home to me. Oh my god, so many fun things here. So Ash, what are your favorite karmas?
Obviously, the cat. And then I love when she says, she says, karma is a relaxing thought. Aren't you envious that for you it's not? Like, just, I love that. And I love when she's like, it's the breeze in my hair. Like, because I feel like for you to enjoy the breeze in your hair, you have to have you have to be relaxed. There has to be something, because if not, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. But on a nice day where you can feel like the sun on your face and like that breeze in your hair. And you just, those worries kind of just go away. I think it's so beautiful. But obviously, my personal favorite, somebody who was a Kansas City Chiefs fan before she started dating Travis Kelce. Okay. I was. My significant other has loved them since he was 5. So it was thrust upon me way before any of this happened. But she changed the lyric to Karma is the guy on the screen coming straight home to me, to just while she's performing, she changed it to Karma is the guy on the Chiefs coming straight home to me. And I will tell you, I was watching that live. And when she did it, I screamed to the point where like my sister-in-law who's over was like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, Taylor Swift. And she was like, okay, don't need to explain. But I love it. And then another line that I love is when she says, this isn't necessarily when she's statistically picking like a karma, but she says, Spider Boy, King of Thieves, weave your little webs of opacity. My pennies made your crown. Trick me once, trick me twice. Don't you know that cash ain't the only price? It's coming back around. But I love when she's like, weave your little webs of opacity. Like my pennies made your crown. Like you got rich off of me. And like now you're gonna weave your little webs to try to figure out what it is or who to contact or what I have to do to sneak behind my back to get whatever it is they want. And I just love it.
Well, so before I say my favorite karma in the song, isn't it though beautiful and like true to what everything we've been talking about in terms of the philosophy, the Taylor Swift philosophy of karma and of life, which I subscribe to. She teaches, I learn. I think it's fun that this is the last song on the Eras tour, but also the idea of Taylor keeping her side of the street clean and kind of keeping her head down, doing the right thing, it has always ended up benefiting her, whether that's Kim and Kanye, whether that's, big machine records, whether that's her getting her masters back. She's always proven to be the victor. She always proves to be the one who comes out on top because she does keep her side of the street clean and the other people do not. So I think that she is the walking example of karma in action, right? Is that, bad things were done to her and it may have been painful at the moment, but it all comes back around and she is now at the height of the world. She has her masters back. She was proven to be the one who didn't say those things to Kim and Kanye, that the tape was faked, all of these things, right? So we love that. We love that she's a walking example of what she preaches. And I think it's fitting that it's the last song of the Eras tour, just because it's like, that's where we're ending it. That's the message to take away. So my favorite karmas, I love Karma as the guy on the Chiefs, of course. I love like the sweet like honey, sweet like justice, like that. Those I think are so sassy and like confident and like, kind of bitchy and like in a really confident way. I don't know. But my personal fave is karma's on your scent like a bounty hunter. Karma's going to track you down because that's what she's saying. That's the whole point, is like, no matter what, you may think that you've gotten away with this, but like karma's on to you and karma's, it's bigger than you and it's tracking you and it's going to strike, whether that's good or bad. And I just think that's so great. So any thoughts?
No, I was like trying to guess what your favorite one was. And I was going to say Sweet Like Honey, just because I think it's, and Justice. I was like, that feels very Ryan. One of my favorite, I now have like a favorite memory with this song. I recently went to Taylor Swift trivia and they had, well, I won, obviously. Well, my team did. There was like 11 teams, I think. And my partner Garrett was there. He was like, I'm here for the beer. We were at a brewery. One of the things was name that tune. And I'm not going to lie, like name that tune is something that like, I was like, oh crap, I'm not sure if I'm going to be good at this. And I was getting them all for the most part. And then there was one song where I was like, what, this is Antihero, right? And Garrett looks at me and he goes, no, this is Karma. It's just like,
oh my God.
Oh my God. And then I was like, who are you? I want to make out with you right now. Like,
I'm proud of him.
It was like the most attractive thing. He did so well. He knew so many questions, but when he was like, he looked at me like, Ashley, this is Karma. What are you thinking? I was like, wow, this is why I love you. Cause like that man, like he's only listening to it for the most part when I'm listening to it. And it just feels nice. Like, I feel like I got some karma back by loving him, that he's like, like showing me love back by paying attention to the thing that I care about. And I feel like there could have been a little karma for Garrett and I being such like diehards of Taylor and the Kansas City Chiefs together. And we started to love each other's things, that maybe somehow our karma is now there together.
Yes, I
And
love it. Oh my God.
I mean, I'm just kidding, guys. That's ridiculous. But I think it's just the song is just so fun, and I feel like it can be tied into so many different horror movies of like karma. Like there's so many movies where people do something bad and something bad happens, or that the bad guy ends up being taken out by the final girl. And I feel like this is such a powerful final girl anthem.
Well, and I just want to end like the karma segment here with like some of my other favorite lines, which is ask me what I learned from all of those years. Ask me what I earned from all of those tears. Ask me why so many fade, but I'm still here. I think that is so powerful, and it kind of encapsulates her entire journey, right? Of, the past, everything of the past 10 years of Taylor Swift. Ask me why so many fade, but I'm still here. That speaks to me deeply. So, Ash, where can they find you online, and where can they find our game?
You can find me at Squirrel and Spud 9. There you'll find my Instagram, you'll find my Etsy shop, and you'll find, most importantly, the Wednesday Scream game of the week that Ryan and I collab on. We try to do some fun puzzles, interactive posts that hopefully you guys will have fun with. And please always comment and leave whatever your thoughts are on the post, because I love to hear them. I literally read every single one, and it makes me so happy.
Awesome. Thank you, Ash. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for this segment of the podcast. I am sitting here with a very good friend of mine that I met through my friend Zach Cherry. And this is the first time that I'm properly having her on the podcast, one-on-one. She's been on a couple of group Zooms that she's hopped onto and like weighed in, but I met her through but I used to do the live stream for Zach Cherry's Patreon every month, and I met her through that. And I've always just loved her bubbly spirit and just her personality and what she has to say about Scream. So, everybody, please welcome my good friend Tamika Jones. Hey, Tamika.
And that was so nice. That was like the sweetest intro.
So there's a story behind this episode and what we're going to be talking about. So Tamika came to the Valentine's Day Zoom a couple of months ago, and we were going through our Scream crushes. And Jada and Tamika said a couple of names, and then she said, and oh my God, Jada, of course, Jada. And I was just like, whoa. So I thought this was like the perfect opportunity to give Jada Pinkett Smith some love on this podcast, considering she is one of the best kills in the franchise, and her opening in Scream 2 is legendary for a multitude of reasons. But so, Tamika, are you ready to go through some Scream talk and talk about Jada?
Yes, please. I'm so ready. I love Jada so very much.
Well, so before we get to Jada, let's talk about you. So, Tamika, what is your Scream story? What's your history with Scream? What does Scream mean to you?
Oh wow, that's a question. Well, I I like to say I grew up at the right time. Like I was coming of age at the right time. The late 90s, I was like 16, and Scream just like came to me when I needed it. I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid, and I've been like watching them behind my mom's back. I fell in love with the first Scream, as I know so many of us, love that first movie. It was actually smart and also kind of like felt relatable to me at the time because, I wasn't like the most like savvy horror fan. I just watched what I liked. But like it just really related to me. It was like kind of it's really fully satire. I won't say that. But it is very knowing. But knowing in a really well done, well crafted, well written. Well, the performances are great, iconic performances for pretty much the whole cast. And it just took me. I thought, you know what? Wes Craven, I've never seen. I will obviously like see his movies later as I get older, but I hadn't seen a Wes Craven film before then. And I just thought, like, this is my guy. I love these movies. And I've been with it ever since.
Well, that's so cool. I love that. And I love that you say that it was relatable to you. That's so deep. And I think that, like, that goes to show like why you were drawn to people like Zach and to me, and that I've gotten to meet you and connect, because like these things run deep for us. It's not just like this passing hobby. Like, we're very touched by horror and these franchises. So I just think it's so cool. So again, I just want to thank you for all you've done for the podcast, and just and just for being a friendly face, out there in the world.
Meeting like-minded people. I love that Zach led me to you. It's just like a more family to build, more community to like interact with. And I really enjoyed I was thinking about it the other day. So I started listening to your podcast. Oh, 2 years. Yeah. So yeah, it's been 2 years already.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah, I know. I mean, it doesn't it feel like, I don't know, the past couple of years since Scream 6, I enjoyed like every month when I used to do Zach's live stream with him. I always looked forward to seeing you. I've been blessed through Zach to meet new people too as well. So I'm dying to know. So what is your Scream ranking?
so some of these sure. So I feel like at this moment in my life it's gonna shift because I've seen it recently. Okay, so here we go. Okay, here we go. 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6.
Wow. Okay. So do you want to expand a little bit and just kind of explain your ranking a little bit?
Well, the original, you can't outdo the original. I mean, you can get really, really close, and the sequels get really, really close, but it'll just always be the original for me. And it's just such a moment in time as well in my life of discovering different types of horror. And then 2 and 3 switch, like they flip flop a lot for me. And I bought Scream 3 4K recently, and it's just
Hmm.
that's a great purchase. That was a great purchase. I'm so glad I did that. And I'm reminded of the opening scene in 3,
Hmm.
iconic for its own reason. I feel like just now, like right now, just by a little bit, 3 is next, and then 2. So they're like they're like neck and neck.
Hmm.
And then 4, 5, and 6, there's like jumps.
So can I just ask? So from what I remember, whatever like last times with Zach, I remember you kind of not like you. I remember you having this attitude of peace, of like calm. Like, if they don't make another film, it's okay because you love what we had. Where do you stand now with Scream 7 now that it's been filmed, it's coming out, it's Sydney is the main character again, Courtney is kind of being restored to a place of importance, and we're kind of focusing on Sydney's family. What are your thoughts?
It's funny that you asked that because I remember that so vividly. But now I'm so excited. And you know what? Let's make Sid the focus again because she deserves that. It's time. It's been a long time. So let's like
Yep.
go back to her, give her character the respect she deserves. Let's look at the family.
I love that. I love that you've come around, and I kind of figured you would, because I remember our conversation, your point of view, and I figured you would come around once, like, once Scream 7 started to really heat up and we kind of saw the movie it was going to be. Do you want to go through my speed round questions?
Oh my God, yes. Let's do it. Speed run.
Sydney, Gail, or Ty?
Gail.
Gail. Okay, well, yeah. I know how much you love Gail. Like,
I
your
know.
Twitter is like something like Gail's pantsuit.
Yeah, Gail Weathers, yellow pants.
Love it. Oh my god. Um all right. So you said Gail. Okay, so Sam or Tara?
Tara.
Okay. Dewey or Chad?
Dewey. Dude,
Do you have a favorite movie buff across the franchise?
franchise. Kirby.
Love it.
I
Love
love
it.
Kirby. Yes, Kirby for sure.
All right. Who is your favorite killer?
Okay, we're gonna go. Billy.
Okay. Okay.
That's too tough
Favorite opening and favorite finale?
for an opening. I know. I just said I put 3 above 2, but I mean, you gotta go with 2 because but the original people also like like do their own they've been so inspired. Like so many movies have been inspired by that. Okay, we're gonna go with 2. Settling on that opening. And the finale. Oh, the finale. Should about 4. I think we're gonna go with 4. Cause that, I mean, again, Sid and the one-liners and the clear and then cooking Jill's head. Oh, so good.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Britt, do you have a favorite supporting role across the franchise?
Tatum doesn't get enough love
Yeah.
for some reason, and she's
Yeah.
just so pivotal to the first movie. I'm sad she died. She's missed throughout the franchise. She should have
Yeah.
lived.
She's a
I love
great
her.
character. And like I like recently have had like a real renaissance with her. So I really think that she needs to be loved a bit more. So I agree with you. Okay. Favorite thing about Scream overall?
That aside from a few hiccups here and there, it's consistent. I think more so than most horror franchises. There's still a lot of love and care that I feel goes into each one, especially the cast. They really love their characters and they carry them with them throughout their lives and other projects. And I just think that's kind of like really cool because I love them, they love them. It's just nice. It's like a family, like for so long now. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Love it. I loved your answers. Thank you so much for doing the speed round with me. Well, let's move on now to Jada. So, it was so funny on the Zoom. Whenever your reaction to that, whenever I asked you, for your Scream crush, and you named a couple of people, and then you said, "Well, Jada, of course." So, I guess like my question is, let's just start macro. Like, what about Jada do you admire in general, just even apart from Scream? How do you remember her from the 90s?
Well, I mean, Baltimore's finest, Jada Pinkett, you know. We do claim her, Maryland. We do claim her. Very proud of her. I just always loved her like personality. She seems like really like fearless. And like she has this like tenacity about her that I just so jealous of. Like, oh, I can aspire to that. I can do it. I can do that. And I also just think she's such a great actor. She's been in so many things outside of just Scream.
Right.
Yeah, like and that short hair, like that was iconic. Jada in the 90s, that short hair.
Well, so can I ask, because like Drew Barrymore being the opening of Scream 1 and the shock that was, and the brilliance of that scene, and the way that it became iconic, and the way that it was legendary, even just right after Scream, going into Scream 2, picking somebody to be the opening victim or the main focus of the opening was a big, tall order. So, picking Jada, I wasn't there in the 90s. I know Jada was relevant and obviously, right? She was a very popular, well-known person. She then would, of course, go on to marry Will Smith. So, what, in terms of like the choice of Jada, what are your thoughts on the fact that she was the one who was chosen to kind of be the standard bearer of the opening to follow up Drew Barrymore, if that makes sense?
Does make sense. I think she's a really good cast because what I said, I think that the picking, Drew, it was a big deal because she's Drew Barrymore. You got her in the movie. And then how do you top that? And then the second one, you get two of the most like relevant, especially back then, black actors, like at the time, to be like the opening kills. I'm like, that's just so, and I really appreciated it because I always like look for people who look like me in the stuff that I consume. Like, oh, I love, horror. But like I don't really see like a whole lot of me in these movies. But like and it's just really cool. Like, yeah, like Jada, let's go. We can do horror. We can die and bleed out in front of everyone. And it was just like such a great choice. It just feels like a choice that Wes made. Like we're gonna it's a sequel, so we have to try to top ourselves. And then also maybe he thought, let's put in some like more diversity because I noticed that the films do definitely get more diverse as they go on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you say that because like it is so like the fact that she was picked for the opening in Scream 2, like it is a huge deal. And I just can't imagine how groundbreaking it was to have seen that in the 90s, and to like there's such respect that she's given, the prominence that Jada's given in Scream 2, and just the brilliance of the writing and the scene. It's just, and frankly, I actually think like Maureen Evans is such an interesting character. I would have almost liked to have seen more of her, just because she has a very crystal clear attitude and personality. And it would just be, and a point of view. And what's interesting is like she's somebody who turns out to be right. Like she's trying so hard to make her boyfriend happy, but within the scene from the get-go, she doesn't want to be there. She senses something is off. In her gut, there's just something that's not right. She almost knows it's going to come, but her boyfriend convinces her to stay. And for me, the moment I notice like the shift with Jada in the opening is she goes out to get the popcorn. She comes back in. He scares her. And then that's when she finally starts to kind of let her shoulders down, relax, and have fun. She starts to really get into the movie and try to enjoy for her boyfriend. And then that's whenever, the events turn and almost like her worst nightmares come true. And it's so cruel. Like whenever she gets stabbed, it is so cruel to have a character who knew that this was going to happen, was on guard, nobody believed her, and then she gets publicly murdered. It is so mean, but it's part of like the art and the beauty of the script and the writing. I was just so arrested watching the opening today. I feel like the openings of 1 and 2 are just like so untouchable. And I don't know how we can ever accomplish openings like those ever again, just because they're almost godlike. But what are your thoughts on Maureen in terms of the arc of her scene?
So beautifully like described, Ryan. I loved listening to that because it is so cruel, And I think that's what also makes it really beautiful and sad. Like beautiful seems kind of like a weird thing to say, but it is kind of like beautifully sad, right? Because she's just like, no, it's like almost like slow motion, like no, and then like she gets up and then she's like walking to the front of the theater and still getting stabbed, and just like, and then that the scream. That's what gets me every time. God tier, and again, it's just the emotion. Like it's just so guttural, like, and and everyone's just looking at it like, is this part of the show? Like, is this like supposed to happen?
Well, it's just interesting too, because right, it works on a character level. It works like for Maureen Evans, the girl who doesn't want to be at the movies to begin with, has a suspicion that something's wrong, and it's like a tragic irony that something does actually happen. There's that. There's the idea of like, an African American woman, screaming out for help in a crowd and no one paying attention, no one taking her seriously and ignoring her. And then there's a third element, which is everybody just thinking that this is some big joke, and kind of commenting on society. And it's just all of those things packaged together. It is just so brilliant. And then on top of that, you have like the fact, like, Jada Pinkett Smith, like, being this like colossal icon of the 90s. We're seeing her literally watch Casey Becker, the opening that has just imprinted on our minds. There's something, it's almost Shakespearean to see her watching the opening of the last movie, right? While she's in the actual opening. It's just like, there's so many layers to the brilliance, right? And on top of it, you just have her, you have Jada's star power just kind of shining through. There's so many one-liners that Jada has in this opening. Star 69's ass, damn, it's just, I got my money, but I want your money, right? And it's white, thanks, just like so many one-liners that are just iconic.
That is so true. Like Star 69, like, it's not so relevant at all anymore. But at the time, like, that's something you would have said. Again, Scream being relatable, because like that's something I would have said. Like, wait, but what about caller ID? And again, it's like now you're like, caller ID.
Well, Corey Gillis, 555-0176, right? Exactly. Like that was part of the shtick of Scream 2. It's like, ooh, they have caller ID now. But on top of all of this stuff, like, there is this movie star quality to Jada, yet, and like she gets these big moments of these big quotes, and these big like jokes to throw around. But within all of that, she is so real. Like I think that she is such, like, I believe Maureen Evans as this very kind of, and like let's not forget, Maureen Evans is she's really smart. Like the way that they talk when they're still outside waiting to come in, and she's talking about the pop culture and the African American element of horror movies, that is some really like highbrow, like kind of discussion of movies. That's not like how normal average Americans speak about film. So I think that that's also so cool. But within all of that, she just seems so real. When she's like walking out to get the popcorn, for instance, the way that Jada acts, even just by herself within those like 20 seconds, I get the sense that she is such a real human being.
Absolutely. Even though their names are clearly like, that's like, I guess, an Easter egg for later on, as part of
Mm-hmm.
the plot. But they do feel like real people. It's not, and even Casey too, you get a real sense of the kind of person that she is based on how she responds to things, how she responds to stress, how, responded to being, murdered in a theater full of people. It tells you so much about like who she is as a person. I just love that 'cause I think
Mm-hmm.
again it just ties back into why Jada is such a great fit because she's the same way.
Yeah.
She seems really like resilient and smart and like what is this? You can't get me. I can't be God. It's like oh damn.
Well, and also, can we just point out like the variety of the ways that Jada kind of says these lines? Like it's some dumbass white movie about some dumbass white girl getting her white ass cut the fuck up. Okay, like that's different from the other stuff. Like the I got my money, I wanted your money. The Star 69's ass. Damn, and just like the
Yeah.
real edginess that she had, and like the real edginess she has after Omar Epps kind of scares her. It's just I just think there's a within her playing like the sassy kind of very smart college student who doesn't really want to be there, who has a bad attitude. Within that, she has a lot of variety that allows her to play both comedy and drama, but it feels all realistic, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does, and it's interesting because I almost forget about Omar Epps.
I know, because
Not as
she's so
bad.
prominent, right?
Yeah, like you almost forget, like, oh, like, he doesn't really have as much to do as she did. So there is that. But yeah, like, and I think that's why it also feels so real. She just like puts her foot in it.
Can we just point out one more thing about Maureen? Not only does she comment
Yeah,
on the race elements of horror and how underrepresented and poorly represented African American people were in horror. So even when they were there, it wasn't the greatest representation. So she's commenting not only on the fact of the lack thereof, but also the quality thereof. But then to take it even a step further, whenever Casey, Heather Graham, gets into the shower, she comments on the objectification of women. So it's just like there's another added like component of the kind of cultural conversation about representation in media. So she's kind of the mouthpiece for just talking about these things elusively. And then we kind of see that play out physically, I guess, with her, because she embodies those traits, and we see the way that the audience interacts with her when she starts to be killed. So it's just a brilliant scene on so many levels.
it is. And also too, me one thing. Like, no, because right when she goes up on stage, yeah, wait, right when she goes up on stage is when Heather Graham gets dead. Yeah, I mean, I like it's weird. I watch things so often and I absorb different things each time. It's like another part of the scene that like kind of gets you to like that emotional. It's like one more piece that gets you to like that emotional place and like her getting up there and just like that whale. I still, it just gets me every time. Like, God.
So you alluded to this earlier, but we have to bring it up. Okay. Like the look of Casey Becker with the blonde bob and the sweater, the cream sweater that she wears, like that is iconic. But in my opinion, I think that Maureen Evans's look is even more iconic. The maroon outfit, like she has, like it's like sleeveless, but it has like the jacket and like and
That's
you
your
mentioned
jacket.
the really short haircut. you know it's such a chic look. It looks fabulous. It looks like something. It looks modern and cutting edge and of the moment. I love the color that she wears, the maroon, burgundy, dark red.
Yeah.
It's so pretty and iconic. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
God, I love that sweater. That like kind of sparkly sweater was so. I had so many of those. So relatable. Like she's like dressing kind of like I dress. I'm like, okay, I have fashion sense apparently. But you're right. And it reminds me like of how I kind of the real woman. She's also kind of like, like actor and has kind of like this way of dressing and this way of like carrying herself. And I don't know if maybe that's also intentional as well. But I think that's interesting how they're both kind of like the embodiment of like cool and chic, but also
Yeah.
both kind of meet tragic ends. Oh, whoa, we're cooking now. We are cooking, Ryan.
Well, I was watching the opening scene back today, and I really truly believe that Jada Pinkett has if Drew Barrymore is the greatest death of the franchise, Jada Pinkett Smith is number 2. I think for having to follow up Casey Becker, this is the best scene that they could have possibly done. It's a flawless scene, and she's a flawless choice to be picked for this occasion, right? To be picked for the Scream 2 opening. But also she executes it so well. She's so memorable, so iconic. Scream 2 would not be the same without her. So
absolutely true. I think about her as a character a lot. And I wish that people would like talk about her more, but maybe they don't because I guess it's like the opening kills. And so it gets kind of lost in that, which deserves to be discussed more, I think.
Well, I agree. She deserves some more respect. I mean, I think that the scene itself in the opening of Scream 2 is so highly regarded. But I do think that Jada, she should get more name drops and more shout outs as for the contributions that she brings to that opening, to being the person whose back the opening is on, in the same way that Drew Barrymore does for the original. So that's where I rest my case. So, well, Tamika, thank you so much for this discussion of Maureen Evans and Jada Pinkett. Where can they find you online?
On Twitter, it is Gail Weathers Yellow Pants. And on Instagram, it's Donna Dorga.
Love it. Well, Tamika, thank you so much again for all you do to support me and Scream and being a part of the community that I have here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, of course. And sitting with me here, I have Michelle Visage. Hey, Michelle. Oh my God, I miss saying that. I miss saying that.
You won't believe me, but I told you that I was logged in a few minutes ago. I wish I'd have taken a screenshot. I actually signed in as Michelle Visage, and then I thought, no, just change it back to your normal name. So, hey, Ryan, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am not too bad. Thank you very much. Yeah, very excited to be here. Sun is shining, and so I can't complain.
I just want to mention, it is so nice to be recording with Amar again. I've missed him. He hasn't really been so active in the past, I would say 9 months compared to what he was in the first 4 years of the show. So it's just fun to have it come home. And honestly, Amar and I still talk every day. We're still very close friends, and I would still take a bullet for him. But, every time I watch RuPaul, because Brent, we don't have, I know this sounds crazy, but we don't have traditional cable anymore. I don't think a lot of people do. We just have different streaming services, and so we have RuPaul playing on all the time, different seasons, different whatever. So I always see Michelle Visage, and every time so about 40 minutes into the episode, right, Ru comes, he walks on the runway, he's dressed to the nines, and then he goes through the judges panel and introduces everybody, and Michelle is number 2. And every time I see Michelle and then her name flash across the screen, I think of Amar Karim.
The amount of times you've actually sent me a screenshot and say, hey, thinking of you. And I'm thinking, I wonder why. And then there's just a picture with the name plastered over a picture. So, I mean, I've never seen it except for what you sent me. So I think one day I should literally sit down and see what the dynamics are like between them two. Definitely.
It's fun. The thing is, though, I would actually say you aren't like Michelle. Michelle is kind of really brutal and not mean, but she has a reputation of being extremely, especially brutal in terms of her critiques. It's just more so the dynamic of RuPaul, aka Ryan, and then the person who it's not like she's it's not like it's the RuPaul and Michelle show, but it's RuPaul's show, but Michelle is always around. And I feel that was Amar for a lot of the podcast, and he still is.
Yeah.
We are here going to be reviewing Heart Eyes. Now, I know know we covered Hard Eyes a little bit on the podcast before, but I have a much more sophisticated opinion of it now. And just because it's been a good, a couple of months since we first saw it. First, let's get it out of the way more. So you really like Jordana Brewster, right?
For anyone that knows me, I think I've had a crush on her since she played Delilah in The Faculty, and she's one of those women that just can't do any wrong. For me, I want to see her in anything, and I'll literally watch her in anything. And there's something about her that I've always really liked, and I can't really put my finger on it. But yes, you're right. I do like Jordana Brewster. Yes, definitely.
I know it's kind of funny to say this because because Charisma Carpenter was kind of up for the same role in The Faculty, right? But she reminds me so much of Charisma Carpenter.
I get what you mean. And when I first found out afterwards that they wanted her to play Delilah, I thought, oh, that would have been interesting. But then I realized, nah, I think Jordana Brewster, for the age and everything, fit the role. And I understand why Charisma said no, because it's very much like Cordelia in a sense, the way that Delilah is. But I get what you mean. But again, you see, they're similar but so different to me. So
I feel like I hit a nerve here. Like I thought I was being nice and complimentary. I hit a nerve.
I love Charisma Carpenter. I mean, you know how much I love Buffy and Angel and Cordelia, and I was devastated with what they did with that character. Well, let's not go there. It's our subject. But yeah, okay, I would like to ask you a question. How do they remind you of each other? That's what I'd like to know.
The dark hair, the body type, the sass, the confidence. I think that they look a lot similar. The character she plays in The Faculty is basically Cordelia light, for lack of a better phrase.
Yep.
And I could see Charisma playing the character Jordana Brewster plays here in Hard Eyes. I will say though, I probably think that like Jordana Brewster I think Charisma is amazing as Cordelia, but I think maybe Jordana Brewster, possibly the better actress overall. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I definitely. I mean, I love Charisma Carpenter. I'm never going to say anything bad about her, but I've yet to see her branch out into a different role, whereas at least Jordana's had that because she's had more movie success, I suppose. And I remember seeing her in a TV show called Chuck, which I thought she was fantastic in. So yeah, I think she's done a vast variety of roles, at least, anyway.
Yeah. Well, so not that we're really burying the lead here, but like I want to just hit one more point here. So we have Jordana Brewster in Hard Eyes. She plays one of the detectives. This is a spoiler review, just so you know. And she gets revealed as like the killer, as the quote unquote ghost face, right, of the film in some respects. And for me, it's a huge highlight of the movie that I don't really, this isn't a movie that I really overall like so much, other than Mason Gooding's performance. I think Mason Gooding, he carries this movie. But the second best thing is Jordana Brewster for sure for me. Quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. I mean, I've seen this film now 3 times, and it's funny how each time I see more and more that I'm starting to like about the film. I still think that it's not one of the best slashers going, but when you and I spoke about this and you kept saying about, how he's great and he carries the film, and I was like, yeah, he's great, but is he really that good? And then I saw it. I really did. I saw it yesterday and I was watching it and I was like, you know what? He's actually better in this than he is as Chad, in my opinion. He has this charisma. He really does carry the film. But I also believe, and we haven't mentioned her, that his chemistry with Olivia Hall is fantastic. I really do. I mean, I know that Olivia Hall isn't high up in your list of the actors in this, but for me, I think she's pretty good, and I'm starting to warm to her. But yeah, Mason Gooding is just, you know what, he's got screen presence, and he really does carry this film. He's fantastic in this.
Well, so the other like big actor in this, for lack of a better phrase, is Devon Sawa, and I think it's so cool. Like I will say, the fact that they cast Jordana Brewster and Devon Sawa, we have Mr. Final Destination, Mrs. Faculty, kind of as a duo. I think it's very smart, and I think it's very nostalgic, and I love them. I love seeing them on screen together. Devon Sawa doesn't leave so much of an impression, but just the mere fact that he's here and that he's kind of just, looking like a handsome dad and doing his thing, and just I love that he is part of the horror community, and like he really owns being a horror person and being a horror actor in a way that a lot of people don't. So I give him a lot of props for that. So I think that I think that he by far is an asset to the movie that makes it better, even if he is not like groundbreaking, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. I was going to literally say the same thing, because I believe that in the film, his screen presence, the fact that he is who he is, helps the film itself. But I felt that he was shortchanged with the role. It wasn't the best role, and he could have had a bit more screen time. But hey, who knows? Maybe there were more scenes that were chopped. We're not sure. But yeah, his presence was fantastic. His role wasn't so good.
So Amar, let's talk about the movie overall now, because I think it's important to talk about the actors first, because the actors, mean, are like by far the best thing about this movie. If we had just no name actors in these roles, I would be so easy like thumbs down on this movie. The actors for me take a middling thumb and go up, make it a thumbs up. Mason, Jordana, and kind of Devin. You kind of alluded to, like, I don't really love Olivia Holt. I think it's not her that I dislike. I think she does fine with it. And I think that they have okay chemistry. I don't think it's groundbreaking chemistry. I don't think it's like SMG and Ryan Phillippe. It's not Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. It's okay. I just find the final girl, Allie, to be very annoying and whiny. And just, I mean, like, I don't hate her, but I don't love her either. So I'm just kind of apathetic when it comes to the final girl. And whenever you are apathetic to your final girl, it's kind of like, that's a problem for a horror movie, I think. And I think that it's just kind of a broader problem for slashers, like new slashers today that aren't utilizing, Laurie Strode, that aren't utilizing Sidney Prescott, is creating a new final girl. And like, it's hard because we don't really have a great track record. Like, I think Grace in Ready or Not is by far the best modern final girl, of like a best new original final girl. Like, even like, Sam Carpenter, maybe she could have been, but there's an element of her that's so morally gray and even evil that I can't get on board with as like saying she's like the final girl of the century. I just think that like whatever's going on in terms of society and culture right now, it's really, I think it's hard for studios to take whatever, however the social dynamics of like men and women are developing and make a good solid final girl in the same way that they did in the late 90s. What are your thoughts?
I get what you're saying, and I completely understand your point. I have a slightly different perspective on this, or a different outlook on Olivia Holt and Ali, because I just think that if you really scrutinize who she is, her character from the beginning of the film to the end has a massive transition. She does start off as whiny, but it explains why. She's just broken up and she's obviously in denial, and she's stalking this boyfriend of hers. And then to her, this new character comes in. Is it Jay Simmons? He comes in and she sees him as a threat immediately. And I get that that's the character's problem. But what I like about the character is that she kind of redeems herself pretty quickly. She realizes what's going on. And as far as the final girl is concerned, I think she's quite resourceful. If you look at the merry-go-round sequence, or the carousel as they call it,
as they call it.
I don't know. Sometimes I say stuff and I'm like, I don't know if they say that in America. Is it just a British term?
No, we say it. We say it.
Yeah, you say it. Okay, wicked. Yeah, like that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of screaming and stuff, but that's, Julie James did that loads, and then she came in her own in the second film. But I thought that, and you know what it is? Maybe because I find her a little cute. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But I like the character, and I thought that both of them together, yeah, you're right. It's not groundbreaking, but I do think that the chemistry really works and that they play off each other really well. And some of the humor that's in the film that works is because of those two.
Yeah. Well, so you brought up the H word, which is humor, not hell, even though the humor in this movie is like living in hell. So yes. Like I'm trying, like, here's the thing that I have. It's really hard to be on the internet in the modern day because I feel like there is like this like toxic positivity that just pervades film criticism and film discourse. Like if you aren't over the top, literal, like, not to be, on the nose about it, but hearts in your eyes about every single movie, you are seen as toxic. Unless if, of course, like there is some like, unfavored social, cultural thing about the movie, then you can righteously, cancel it. I feel like that is kind of like the dynamic sometimes when it comes to film discourse. And I find that so frustrating. I find it so stupid and anti-intellectual. And I just think that like, Hard Eyes is a very much an example of like a very like modern, too comedic, too self-aware, suffocatingly online movie. Like that's written entirely in like Gen Z ironic kind of humor and dialogue. Like I feel like the movie takes nothing seriously. And it just makes me kind of frustrated because like it, movies like this kind of, whenever they continue this cycle of like comedy and camp and horror movies, and I don't want this to be the normal thing that we see in horror in 2025. I want to see darker movies again. I just saw Final Destination Bloodlines, and there is an element of this unseriousness in it, and I think that like Hard Eyes is almost like probably one of the worst examples of this type of tone and humor. It even makes more sense, like, Chris Landon wrote this movie with Michael Kennedy and Philip Murphy. The movie was directed by Josh Rubin. I actually think Josh Rubin, for having to work with such a suffocatingly annoying script, in terms of just like how comedic the script is and just how, I mean, like, I don't want to like, I can't overstate this enough. This script feels like it was written like ChatGPT in the style of what a 15-year-old girl would write. Like that is how I see this script. It is so like bubblish, it doesn't really, it's not the type of script that I think can speak to most people because it's so annoying. And like when you have those those qualities, like what can a director really do besides make it poppy and campy? I do think that the direction Josh Rubin does quite a bit to make Heart Eyes the Killer scary. I think that there's some really cool cinematography, some really cool shots, some really violent things about it that I think are really good. But it's just, I find this movie to be very challenging because of how exhausting it is in terms of how online it feels. It feels like the most online horror movie you could make in 2025. Or what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to quote Judy Geller. That's a lot of information to get in 60 seconds. So let me go back. Right. Okay. So I agree with you about, okay, first of all, when it comes to film criticism, you will have noticed that I don't care. I don't follow a trend. If I like something, I will say that I like it. And before I even watched Hard Eyes, it came out a couple of weeks, I think, after it did in the States. And there were newspapers here, really, highly regarded newspapers that gave it a really good review. So obviously the hype was built for me. Plus it's a slasher. Plus it had Jordana Brewster, etc., etc. So I was really hyped for it. And when I first saw it, I came out of that thinking, yeah, I don't agree with what people are saying about this. And I've seen this on Twitter, I've seen it on Instagram, I've seen it on Letterboxd, I've seen all the reviews, and I go through a lot of reviews because sometimes I feel like, am I missing something here if I'm not going with the masses and stuff? And I was like, no, I don't think it's a perfect blend or a genre blending film. Yeah, it has all the elements of romance and slasher and the comedy, but I don't actually think it all works very well. In fact, I will agree with you that there are elements of this that are so good. The cinematography is fantastic. It's visually, it's a stunning film. The design of the killer and everything like that. He has a very Jason Voorhees type exterior and stuff. And when that happens, you think, okay, this is going to get good. And then it just switches into a very unserious comedic way. And I think one of the scenes is where they're in the apartment and Heart Eyes is in the wardrobe. And he comes out and he literally pushes both of them. He's like trying to kill them both. They manage to lock him in. And there's a second of where they're just looking at each other romantically. The music changes and you're just thinking, wait a minute. And then this knife comes through the door. And he does that far too many times. The script is weak. But I would say that even if the script is weak, the director should know, well, I've got charge of this. I can make changes. And I don't think he does. I think he follows the flow of what the script is trying to show. And like you said, it is far too self-aware that it becomes almost like a caricature of itself. And for me, that took me out of the experience. Yeah. I get, that you can have comedy and I get you can have romance, but when you keep throwing it in everybody's face in every serious scene, including the cop scene, the police station, sorry, I just think that it ruined it for me.
Well, and listen, Amar and I are not asking for Hard Eyes to be Schindler's List. In terms of, we're not asking for it to be so serious. We're just asking for some genuine, earnest, real life reality thing about a movie. And that's not this movie. It feels like very vapid. It feels very superficial. It just feels like, I don't know how this really attracts people who don't live hip, trendy, city, who isn't, between the ages of 15 and 17. Like, I just don't get it. For me, it's just, it just feels so immature at times. And and weird things, like you brought up the bedroom scene. A moment that just takes me out of it is like her with the dildo. It's just like, come on, do we have to make sex jokes nonstop? Because there are so many. I even literally have in my notes towards the end enough sex jokes. I get it. It's just juvenile. And again, it's not even that it's juvenile. It's the fact that it's just online juvenile. It feels like it was written in the style of people who tweet nonstop all day long.
Yeah, I mean, look, you and I have been watching slashers for a long time, and I've been watching them since I was 6, so that's a long time ago. And I've come to expect certain things when I watch a slasher. Now, don't get me wrong, I like that they change stuff, like Happy Death Day and Freaky to a certain extent. They blended humor well, I think. And I know that Christopher Landon he directed both of those, I believe. But if a film what I want from a slasher film is it has to have certain elements that are always going to be there in every slasher. So it has to have good chase scenes. It has to have characters that you're going to root for. It has to have goriness. It has to have blood. Yes, humor will help. But with this film, like you said, it definitely feels very immature. And for me, when I'm watching a film, I can appreciate humor that is not meant to be funny, but then hits you in the face. This tries too hard. far too hard. It's like, okay, we know we're going to be funny here, and let's just throw it in your face. And like you said, the dildo sequence and so many other things that didn't need to be in there. So I'm going to agree with you on everything that you said. And sometimes I like to stir the boat and think I don't want to always agree with Ryan, but I can't because I've watched it 3 times. Don't get me wrong, it's slightly better each time because I see things that maybe I haven't seen before. But it will never be, in my opinion, unless in 10 years I change my mind, but I don't think so. It will never be a classic.
So a good example of this is, and I don't want to say that I'm averse to sex jokes. I love talking about sex. I love making sex jokes, but like for the way that this movie does it, it's just too much, and it's just the style. I don't know, but like for instance, like let's even just take the sex out of it. Like it's just like the suffocatingly online Gen Z speak. It's like the at the beginning when they're at the winery and the photographer misses the shot. The guy on the phone, he's like, "I'll end you ... in a Yelp review." Like that just kills me. Like I'm just like, this is not a movie. This is just like, I was listening to some of the dialogue and I was like, but who speaks like that? Like really I was. And maybe
because
people online, like people who are chronically online, like these chronically online, weirdos. These people don't exist out in the real world. This is dumb, But like, okay, let's talk about, because like overall, I am slightly positive on this movie because Amar kind of just referenced it. He watched it 3 times, you said? I've also seen it 3 times. I saw it once in theaters, once watching it with my, watching the DVD at home, and then the 3rd time watching it in preparation for the podcast. And I have to say, like, I don't mind watching it. I think it's fine. And like, I do think that when it comes to Hard Eyes, I think that it covers the holiday really, really well. Like, because like we horror fans, we're so emotionally attached to our movies and slashers and the idea of like, being able to tie them to things like holidays, like for instance. So having a new movie about Valentine's Day that is a slasher is fun, and it gives us something to look forward to every year, right? And I will say for the topic of Valentine's Day, of, romance, of a loss of romance, the way that social media kind of impacts the way that how we do our relationships now and how we do love and romance, in addition to just like, the hopeless romantic, the curmudgeon about Valentine's Day, sex, the engagement, like there is a lot here, even like the killer's motive to an extent, like, everything here is on point and on message about like talking about the holiday in a good way. I actually think that they do cover all of the bases when it comes to like, Valentine's Day or what romance means in today's world. And I think that's really good. And I also just think it's also very smart for the movie to take place in a marketing firm and also be about marketing, because Valentine's Day is literally like a Hallmark holiday. That's what people say. So I think like there's a lot of smart stuff in it about the holiday. It's just the humor kind of distorts it for me. And I remember like my friend Joey, he went and saw it. He saw it before me, and he said to me like, that in terms of blending and balancing the 2 genres of slasher and romantic comedy, that it did way more romantic comedy than slasher. And at the time I thought, really, how could that be bad? Then you see it and it's like, oh yeah, there is too much of that, right?
I mean, to be honest with you, you get the opening scene and then you forget it's a slasher.
Yeah.
Because it takes an age, and I get that you want to do character development and all of that. But, I agree with you with what they were doing about the holidays and obviously the Hallmark aspect of it. But when I was watching it, I wasn't even concentrating on that. I was like, where's this killer? And maybe that's on me, because I get that it's like 3 different genres in one. But when you look at who's in it, you've got a Scream person, you've got a Faculty person, and a Final Destination person. And Olivia Holt was in Totally Killer as well, I realized the other day. So all 4 of them have been in slashers before. Again, it was the way that I programmed myself. So when I was watching it, I was just like, yeah, I'm not here to watch a romantic comedy. I want to see something, and again, maybe that's on me. But even after my 3rd watch, that aspect of it drowns out the slasher aspect. Unless you look at obviously the final third, then you get a lot of blood and a lot of murder and mayhem and stuff. But you could literally take that whole romance out of it, and it probably would have been a better film.
I think that not even for me, it's not the romance that's the problem. It's the style of the humor. That's my beef. Is it's not like it's not the fact that they're trying to blend a romantic comedy with a slasher. It's the style of the comedy. It's the type of comedy. It's the volume of the comedy. It's how annoying the comedy is and how annoying the characters are when they talk. Because they're trying so hard to pander to such a young audience. It just feels so juvenile. So that's a huge problem for me.
And I think for me too, because when I watch a film, I always try to put myself in the audience shoes, as in what target audience is this? You know, when I go to watch, I don't know, a Disney or a Pixar film, I'll know what to expect. But with this one, it just felt, I think the dialogue in most of this film is really poor. It's quite abysmal, actually. And like you touched upon that this is online talk, and I was just like, well, but who actually speaks like this? And yeah, you're right. I mean, when I say romance, it's because it's a romantic comedy, but it doesn't work. I think most of the jokes fall flat, to be honest.
Well, and here's the thing too, like there's so much, like, so, you know, one thing that, you know, we don't, Easter eggs used to be something cool, but they are out of style. You know, Taylor Swift once saying, we will never go out of style. Easter eggs are not that. So, you know, like there's just like, you know, for instance, like the chief of police is named Chief Hartley. And I get Chief Hartley because it's Heart, it's Valentine's Day, but it's an obvious Scream 2 reference, and it's just like so, like, it's so stupid, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's not cute. I'm a Scream person. I'm a Scream 2 and 3 person. I should be the target audience for being like, oh yeah, that's such an awesome reference, but like it just feels lazy, you know what I mean? It just feels kind of like, okay, we get it, you know. It's like, you know, Michael Kennedy wrote this movie, right? In like one of his movies, It's a Wonderful Knife or whatever, that got horrible reviews, like, you know. But that movie, like the main character's name is like Gail Prescott. It's just like, it's too obvious, too on the nose, too obnoxious, and like that's the kind of thing that just doesn't work for me for the movie. You know, I just don't like it. So let's talk. There are some other things I want to talk about. Like, so for instance, like another thing about Hard Eyes that I think is really cool is the killer himself. I love the costume. I love the actual like heart eyes, right? I love how brutal he is. I love his weapons. I love like you know, the Cupid's arrow aspect. I think that the killer is so well defined and well built and realized as a villain. It's really hard to create a villain in horror movies that lasts a legacy, you know. And like Ghostface is probably one of the last ones. This is a really good example of like, oh, wow, he is a really cool killer, you know. And I will say, I hate Easter eggs, but one of my favorite moments of the film is that Halloween 2 homage whenever the blood comes out of the eyes in the finale, or one of the finales. So Amar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I alluded to it. I thought the character design was fantastic. I mean, every time he's on screen, you know, you get that sense of dread, and you think, oh, you know, the characters are in trouble because he's stocky, he's tall, he's dominating, he's quite creepy, and the fact that he doesn't speak like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. And yeah, I love that. Well, the funny thing is, the first time I saw that, I didn't even realize what they were referencing, and then you mentioned it the other day to me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so clearly Halloween 2 reference. So that is pretty cool. But yeah, he could definitely be, I mean, obviously if they ever make any more films, then he could definitely become quite an iconic figure because he has that design.
I don't think that he will become an iconic person, because you have to have good movies to, you know, to do this. You have to have a legacy to kind of have a lasting look. And he may have the look, he may have the eyes, he may have a cool backstory, a cool theme, weapons, and is brutal, but like, you know, we'll see. You know, because like here's another thing, like for however menacing he is, the deaths still, they kind of end with a wink and a drum beat, you know? It's like the Rebecca Gale Weathers drum beat at the end of their scene in Scream 4, the bump, like, you know, that's how I kind of feel after every death scene. Even the opening scene, which I am like the biggest wino. I love wine so much, and I go to wineries often. I should have been a sucker for that opening scene, and I didn't like it because of the style of the comedy. But yeah.
Well, I think that flows throughout the entire film. I mean, look at the open cinema car park area where there's the two characters in the back of the van, and I just think that it gets so silly. I mean, the death is quite brutal, but it just gets really, really, it's almost cartoony in the way that they do things, and I'm just like you said, with the drum beat and the wink. And again, that's one of my biggest issues with the film, is that it takes me out of that experience. It's like even the brutal scenes aren't brutal anymore, or they are brutal, but they just don't seem menacing enough, if that makes sense.
So, you know, and I just want to like emphasize, because there are things about this movie I like, and again, I think that the reason to see the movie is Mason. He carries the movie like on his shoulders, like, you know, the charisma, how much of a leading man he is, how magnetic he is. I mean, like, he sells this movie's despite the flaws, in my opinion, you know. But beyond that, I do have like two other things I really want to hit as we wrap up here. So one of which is like the structure. Now, I don't know if I like the structure or if I hate the structure. The structure of this movie is odd, right? So you have a normal opening scene, a normal Scream type opening scene, right? Then like for the next like 30, 35, 40 minutes, almost no horror happens. It's just, you know, building the plot, whatever, which is kind of normal in some respects, maybe. Then Act 2 happens, and Act 2 is basically this big, long chase scene that starts, you know, in the park, then happens at the police station, and then we get two finales, right? We get like a finale at the drive-in and then a finale at the church. It's a weird structure. There's really you can't really organize it or compartmentalize it well. In some ways, I kind of like it. I like the fact that there's a big set piece chase scene, kind of. And that kind of goes from the park through the police station. And I do like in each of the individual finales, for lack of a better phrase, I like the settings of each. But again, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the structure of the movie?
I didn't like it the first time I watched it, if I'm honest with you. But after, once Hard Eye starts chasing the two main guys, Olivia's character and Mason's character, from then onwards, I do think that it gets into its groove a little bit more. And the two endings were needed, I suppose, because if that first ending was the ending, it was just like, well, that's just kind of meh, and then obviously. But the one thing I'll say is, for me, I felt that all the way through that film, it was so obvious that Jordana Brewster was a killer. And I've said this to you before, and I don't know if it was the style that she chose or the director asked her to do, but leading up to her big reveal, there are just little snippets and nuances that told me she's got something to do with this. And I thought they could have played that a little bit better, but the finale, the main finale is so well done. I mean, it's not fantastic. I don't know who said it to me. I think you might have said it. It's very Scream 6 almost in the way that it looks and feels. But I think that sequence is saved by Jordana Brewster. I think she really comes into her own. She looks menacing. She is quite evil. She looks stunning. I've come to accept the structure and that it's different. It doesn't follow the typical arcs of any act that a normal film would follow, but it's fine because everything else is just so here and there. I don't mind it, to be honest.
So, you brought up Scream 6, and this is the other thing I really want to hit when it comes to the movie is I feel like you can really see, and maybe this is just something interesting, in terms of horror in this day and age, is seeing the effect of how Scream 5 and 6 have impacted other horror movies. Because with Scream 5, I mean, you can literally see, they recreate the image of Sydney and Gale sitting in the ambulance with the blue blankets on them twice in this movie, which is kind of annoying, but also kind of cute. But the thing that gets me is the finale. The whole movie feels very Scream 6 to me in tone, in style, especially the finale, the goofiness around the killer reveals. It's very Scream 6 to me. And with this movie, it's less of a bother for me because Scream is supposed to be serious. This movie obviously is not. So it's fine enough, but whatever. It's more like urban legend than it is Scream. And if you want to think about it that way in terms of the finale, which I'm cool with, in a way, but still it's very Scream 6-ish. I will say my favorite scene of the movie, the one where I was actually really in awe of the originality, the concept, and kind of the anxiety is the police station scene where Hard Eyes comes into the room where Mason's handcuffed. Because what do you do in that scenario whenever you're handcuffed to a table and there's a killer trying to kill you right there when you can't go anywhere? The idea of being chased around when you're handcuffed to an object in the middle of the room, it was so cool to me. And I love the way that this scene ends with Olivia Holt of course shooting the glass mirror and and kind of them getting away. I think that to me was the highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to mention the police station sequence because it reminds me of a police station sequence in Jeepers Creepers and another film that I've seen, and they were really well done, and I think it's fantastically done. At the beginning of your little monologue there, you said the effects of, and all I heard was Mickey saying cinema violence, but you disappointed me. You went into something else. But no, you see, overall, if I'm honest with you, it's a film it's good, right? It's got a lot of things going for it, but I just feel that if they would have toned down on a lot of the, maybe not wokeness, but the we're so self-aware of what we're doing, it would have been a right tone, and it could have been such a better film. And yeah, the references to Scream 6, I suppose you're right. I mean, I didn't, except for the finale because of the setting and the church and stuff, I didn't realize that they did that twice. And now that you've mentioned it with the whole blanket and the Gale and Sydney stuff of it, it is another Easter egg, I suppose. And I suppose you could look at it as being cute, but yeah, it's fine. It's a good film. And I think I'll always say that, if it's one to watch, but you see, when I put a slasher on, it's very rare that I put a slasher on and just have it on in the background. This might be one where it's like, oh, okay, it's on, let me go do some washing.
Yeah, right. It's I think that's a good way of putting it. You can have it on while you're working or something, right? So yeah. Again, I'm kind of I skew positive. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, just because I think that it is a nicely made movie in terms of the direction, and the actors are what really pull it over. And like I think that the movie does kind of conquer what it's trying to do in terms of the theme of the movie, which is Valentine's Day. But for me, it's just the writing is such a turnoff, and like the style of the humor is such a turnoff, and it's just so it would never be a movie that I truly deeply respect as much as it's fine. I will watch it. I enjoy watching it, but I'm not going to say anything about its greatness as a movie. And I think that like I would advise more horror movies. Like for instance, Christopher Landon, he wrote the script, he didn't direct this. I would advise Christopher Landon to continue to do stuff like Drop, which I found to be a fantastic film, an adult movie. I think that Christopher Landon needs to work independent of some people he's worked with. I think that perhaps projects like Hard Eyes hold him back from finding his true potential. So that's all I'll say.
I haven't seen Drop. I've heard very good things about it. I think you've mentioned that too. So, I'm looking forward to that. But when I was watching this film, there was a part of me that said, I am so glad that he's not doing Scream 7. Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned Drop, and I was like, okay, I'll watch that film and think about what that. But yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just working with the same amount of the same type of people. But the one question I have is that if as a director, if you have a script, and you mentioned this previously on a previous episode about Scream 6, that you will have a script, but as a director, you need to make those creative changes, because Wes Craven did that many times. When he had things, and he knew how to blend comedy and do what. Obviously, Scream is a different ball game than Hard Eyes, but if you've got a script and we were a director, surely we would think, okay, well, does this work? Or maybe it's the score. Are you adding the right score at the right time? We don't know, but it is a 6 out of 10, and there are elements of it that I've started to appreciate a lot.
And so we're both 6 out of 10. I think that's a good place to be in terms of Drop of it all. First of all, Amar, you're going to love Drop. But second, when it comes to Scream 7, so I want to just address this because if you listened to the other Heart Eyes episode back in February, you maybe the way I covered it today, much different from the way I covered it then. Yeah. Whenever I first saw Heart Eyes, this was kind of through the lens of, Christopher Landon was literally hired as the director of Scream 7. All of Christopher Landon's other work in terms of like The Happy Death Day, The Freaky, all this version of Christopher Landon, I don't think would have made a great Scream 7 or the type of Scream 7 that most fans would have wanted to see. The Christopher Landon who did Drop, however, he can do a Scream 10 after Kevin Williamson does whatever he's going to do with his trilogy or his 2-part movie. Christopher Landon should make a Scream movie someday after he cultivates the skills to really make a Scream movie that is a Scream movie, if that makes sense. And I think Drop was a huge step in the right direction. Like I watched Drop and I could think this is a silly comparison, but I told Joey Valisi last night, I could have seen Christopher Landon actually taking his Screams script, the one about Gail in New York in her studio. That could have been, there are things in Drop about Drop that I think Landon could have done really well in terms of direct that kind of Scream movie. So, he has it in him for sure. But so Amar, any final thoughts about Hard Eyes and where can they find you online?
Hard Eyes, my thing is that if people like it, that's good for them. But we're not hating on the film just for the sake of hating on it. It's just that my idea of a script and a film and a slasher is slightly different, and I understand that Gen Z and everything is changing a little bit. But you know what? It's still a fun time. And it has some good performances, and it has some good set pieces, and some good kills, and cinematography, and all of that. The visuals are fantastic. So definitely watch it, but go in with an open mind if you've not seen it.
All right, everybody, thank you. We will see you next time.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!